Hello and welcome to Talkin Baseball. The trade deadline has come and gone, and some teams made moves and others didn't, and some made a lot. Let's talk all about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Baseball. Thank you very much for hanging out with us for a little bit as we try to recap the deadline that was. My name is Jimmy. Sitting next to me is Jake. California, we got Trev behind the dish. We've got Bug Dude, producer BBD, coming to you live from the Roosevelt Studios in the Bronx. Trev, did you hear about all these trades?
Kind of a big day yesterday with the whole trade deadline and all.
A lot of things happened.
There were some big ones. There were some teams that stood still. I think in all, it was a pretty exciting, kind of entertaining trade deadline. Thanks to the Padres.
Yeah, there was a lot of pitchers that were rumored to be on the move that ended up not being on the move. So I thought we were going to get a bigger late push than we got. But what we got was some interesting teams that we had said a couple weeks ago. I don't know if they're going to go all in. I don't know if they're going to just enjoy the ride, go all in. Jake, any big surprises before we dive in or anything?
Yeah, you mentioned the pitchers that didn't go. Lance Lynn ends up staying. I think we would have lost that bet if we had to make it yesterday because there were some quotes out of there. San Francisco stands pat. Gossman and Cueto don't move. But, yeah, this was a pretty big deadline, man. Obviously, Clev headlines it, but a lot of names moving, and this is what I stumbled into Waking Jake this morning. Check it out. And again, we're sad about our Yankees not making a move. We really would have liked to see something. And I think part of that, and this is what I was hoping this deadline was going to be from the start of the season, is the fringe teams got in. The Blue Jays made serious moves. The Reds have a losing record, and they went out and they got two pieces. If this was a normal season with normal playoffs, the Cincinnati Reds would not do that. So I think we saw that coming. The Mets got in. The Mets got involved right at the end. Why not, Mets? Brody doing it.
I don't know the pieces the Mets traded away or if they traded away anything, but
they got involved. And again, there's you can end up flip-flopping if you want, but there is something to the fact that, hey, if you're a team and you bring in a couple pieces, whether it is, Todd Frazier and Chirinos. Yeah. You bring in a couple pieces and you hope they spark your team. And if you're a team like the Orioles who did trade a couple guys, even though you're still in the mix, it's got to sting a little bit. So, I don't know. Excited to go through it with you gals.
Yeah. Trev, can you just tell us a little bit about trade deadline as a player? Like watching teammates be nervous, watching teammates be shocked, what the scuttlebutt in the clubhouse on deadline day. Is it as hectic for you guys in the clubhouse, or is it completely, out of sight, out of mind? Let them do what they're going to do.
I think it depends on where your team is at. If you're contending and, you're there in the thick of the race, then you're looking for your organization, your front office to make a move, and you're actually hoping somebody gets moved. But I think the biggest thing that has changed the deadline is Twitter. Now you're seeing almost every day your name in trade rumors. And it's not the beat writers that are asking you or saying anything about it necessarily that's getting you going. It's just like there's just so much talk about baseball and coverage with baseball. Like you're going to hear your name somewhere. And I think that's kind of changed everything. But it's an exciting time. I think, for me, it was you see your name and then nothing happens, or you see somebody else's name and nothing happens. And it kind of, you could take it one or two ways. You could either rejuvenate you and be like, okay, good, I'm still here. Or you could be like, man, those mother effers wanted to trade me. So it's always a little bit of a shot to like the ego when you feel like, a team wants to get rid of you. And they always say, oh, that just means the team wants to bring you in. But it doesn't necessarily feel that way. It always feels like you're getting pushed away from your kind of your family, if you will. But it's definitely a different type of feeling.
Did the Twins ever like have a big, while you were there, like a guy came in that changed the clubhouse, or like you guys find out, we got him? I'm trying to look and see if there's any big ones, but any of you remember?
Not really, because dude, we we weren't a great team when I was there. I remember we bought in 2015, I believe, we brought in Kendrys Morales, and he hadn't played that whole year yet. But we had brought Torrey Hunter in, and we were kind of competing there, and we were good. But we brought in Kendrys, and he had like no spring training, nothing. He wasn't very good for us. We ended up shipping him off, I think, in an August deal. So he was only there for a little bit of time. I think the one that definitely sticks out in my mind, and a lot of Twins fans probably hate this deal. In 2010, we lost Joe Nathan in spring training, and we were like a really good team that year. We lost him in spring training, so we didn't have a closer. John Roush was our closer to start the year. He was okay, but we knew we needed a back-end guy. So we traded Wilson Ramos for Matt Capps. And people, Wilson's still catching in the league. Mauer obviously had to, stop catching, so he would have been someone for us. But Capps came over that year and absolutely, he was the reason we got into the playoffs that year. Like, he came over and just like shored up the bullpen, and I think that was a really big trade that everyone's like, okay, we really need that.
What about Morneau leaving?
Those are tough. Those are tough, man, because the writing's on the wall. Like, guys like that Morney got moved to the
Pirates.
Yeah, and then we traded at one point Willingham to the Royals. Like, those are kind of my mentor guys. It's tough.
Froze on us. Oh,
yeah, I know,
look like you're back now. You're just saying it's tough. All right,
yeah.
I was just curious, so I wanted to get some insight into that aspect of it, since Jake and I cannot bring that. Let's get straight into it. You want to start with the Padres? I think, yesterday's episode on the recap, we naturally had to talk about what the Padres were doing a little bit, and some trades were being made during the pregame show, so we've had some discussions. Jake and I have talked. The audience has kind of heard our opinion on it. To sum it up quickly and send it to you, we were shocked that it was so low. Doesn't feel like they got an impact player at the major league level or an impact player at the prospect level. And my point is, I think they could have made this move in the offseason and rode Clev through the playoffs and picked up some more money in the playoffs and some wins in the playoffs. So I thought if they traded in at the deadline, it was going to be huge, and I feel like the return isn't huge. It was called by themselves or by scouts a volume deal.
Yeah.
So, Jake, if you want to do any quick.
No, I mean, my thing before kicking it to Trev is, you say volume deal. It reminds me of the Garrett Cole trade. I mean, when that initially happened, everyone was kind of shocked, and the Pirates were like, yeah, we got 4 guys that we think can be major leaguers for us. Not necessarily impact guys, but we have now heard that different teams look at their teams that way with WAR and everything. Instead of going out and signing the big 5 WAR free agent, go out and sign 7 guys that can combine for that. And that feels kind of what looks like happened. I will say this, if you're a Padres fan, you're obviously over the moon. Your team's been the story this year, and you add a guy like Clevenger who's got some stats that you could cook in that make him look like one of the best pitchers in baseball. I mean, that's just an awesome feeling. If you are a Cleveland fan, this has to suck. I think your spin zone is, the pitcher they got back, not who's
Quantrill.
Former top pick. He's been in the pin this year because the Padres do have some good pitching, and he's looked good. If you can get some Cleveland magic going with him, and, you can make him 80% of what Clevenger was, and then one of those lottery tickets hit, the trade kind of might make sense from a front office perspective. But it's, you're Cleveland. You're a really good baseball team. You're in this AL Central race. You don't want to be sending off Clevenger. You want to say, hey, with Clevenger and Bieber, we'll take on anyone. And now, you got some prospects. And the other thing you wanted was filling like an impact outfielder. And you didn't really get that.
No, they didn't get that. I do believe what you said is true. Like, I don't think teams are necessarily going off of Baseball America or Keith Law's prospects lists anymore.
I don't think they look at those at all.
They could as like a bargaining chip. Maybe they could tout that like, oh, look who this guy's rated this, whatever.
It's the same way people use Rotten Tomatoes. If you like the movie, you use it to back it up. If you don't like the movie, then you say Rotten Tomatoes sucks.
Yeah, with all they've implemented all the Stat Track or whatever, the Hawkeye and stuff like that in their minor league facilities. They can go and analytically deep dive on some of these prospects. So with a guy like Quantrill, maybe Cleveland says there's some peripherals where we like what his ball does, or his spin on his ball, whatever. We can take this guy and make him better. I think a lot of teams look at that. If you're a Padres fan, definitely sucks losing Clev. I just don't think he has the same impact as the one they call Frankie is going to have. When he leaves, that's going to be a really sad day for the Padres. Because right now, I feel like the Padres can withstand this. They have Bieber and they have some young guys. The Indians. The Indians can withstand this. They have some young guys come up who they really believe in. And guess what? We're recording this. It's September 1st. Guess who's on the bump today?
Bieber?
Plezak.
Oh, he is? Yeah. No, so that's a different aspect. Like, the Indians are still a good team and they can still compete. Clevenger's much, 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 much better going into a postseason, especially if you want to get into a 5-game series or a 7-game series, if that's the goal. It's more of, could you have gotten more for him? And I think the consensus was, yeah, you could have. The Padres didn't give up any of their top picks. They get Clevenger for 2 more years. I mean, I did the numbers yesterday. Last 75 games pitched, 2.9 ERA for Clev.
Is it 2 more years, or is it
2 more years?
So okay, wow, that's a big thing. I just think they wanted to get rid of him. Then that seems really weird to me.
And I think you may be right there, but that's also bad business. Like, don't take less, because the only people that hurts is you. If you're selling less because you want to get rid of them for personality reasons, well, that helps the Padres a whole bunch. It helps Clevenger. He's going to be much happier in San Diego on that fun young team.
Yeah.
And it hurts the Indians. So a lot of people are trying to play that card. They just wanted to get rid of him. It's like, well, that, to me, you're just screaming, they're bad at business. Because, that's dumb. You don't let other, we'll just take anything for him. Like, okay. Padres' eyes light up. The Cole deal is a good comparison, Jake. They got nothing in return for Cole. Houston got 2 really, really, really good years out of Garrett Cole. Colin Moran's been a good hitter, not a game changer in any way. The other guys, Musgrove's been a below-average pitcher, but he's an arm. And the other 2 guys don't even really play, or I don't even think have any hype. So these volume deals I don't get.
It's number one, trades are hard. It's evaluating talent is hard. The draft is incredibly difficult. And then when you're analyzing guys and you're saying, okay, I like this guy, he might not work out. Number 2, I think and we're going to see this, I think, throughout the league, is money. Cleb was going to have big arbitration numbers, whatever it would be, 15 mil maybe next year. I don't know what he's making this year. I don't know how COVID's going to affect arbitration, but he's got big numbers coming, and everyone's trying to shed payroll. I could see that. A team like the Indians, I don't know, are they a small market team?
They want to be.
They act like one, yeah.
They act like it, but that's why they're going to trade Lindor in the offseason, most likely. They want to shed. But then you look at the Padres and they just want to spend, dude. I don't know. I'm happy for the Padres. And I tweeted yesterday that you can't say there were winners in these trades yet. You could say the immediate winner would be the Padres, obviously, because they're getting the immediate help that they need in a season that they think they can win the World Series. But we can't say they won or lost the trade just yet. We have to see how these guys pan out. If they get a guy to replace Lindor, was it Gabriel Arias, and they have another guy named Owen Miller, both infielders, taking a shot at those guys. Maybe they can fix Quantrill.
If their plan is to get rid of Lindor, right, and they got 2 shortstops in this deal, so maybe they're saying, hey, we don't need your number 1 prospect, but give us some options at short, because we're getting rid of Lindor soon. So give us don't the Padres have a top shortstop prospect? in Abrams? Is that his name? I was looking at it the other day.
People were talking about
Yeah, I
him.
think he's their top position player prospects. People were saying it's great that they were able to trade infield prospects that weren't him.
Like, if you're the Indians, go ask for that guy and less players if that's your goal, is to find the replacement. And it just would look better. I don't know. Again, like, we don't have the information.
Right.
Scouts have more information than us, and scouts have less information than the people making these trades. So I come from there. But I just think it's weird.
And it also, I mean, it starts turning into, like we mentioned, Keith Law's charts don't run the world. It's what do you value? Austin Hedges, who hasn't been a plus player by the eye test, what he's really good at is stealing pitches. I think he leads Major League Baseball easily. And know who's number 3 in that? I believe it's Roberto Perez, who's on Cleveland. So the way Cleveland evaluates players, Austin Hedges is probably someone they're into. The other piece that we heard about in this trade that we heard from inside the walls of baseball, and then I had some people tweeting at me last night, Joey Cantillo. Apparently he's an up-and-coming pitching prospect. And again, like, if Joey Cantillo turns out to be a real thing, we could be here laughing in a few years. Michael Brantley was a piece of the Bartolo trade. Someone referenced that a few years back, and they were like, trust Cleveland's front office. I was like, that's going back a couple years for me.
No, but they do have a track record.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, they traded for Bauer. They traded for, I think Bauer might have been a major leaguer at the time.
He had like a couple starts with Arizona.
Yeah, but they traded for Kluber when he was in the minor leagues. They traded for Clevenger when he was in the minor leagues. I mean, they have a track record of doing this. And like I talked to our guy Tristan McKenzie, sequence out today. Shout out, go check that out. And I asked him that. I said, "What do you guys do differently?" And he didn't give me a good answer, and I wish he did, because I would have sold it to the 29 other teams.
Yeah,
because Cleveland can develop pitching. Cleveland and the Rays can do it, man.
What's the other trade the Padres made? Nola. Does anyone?
They have a lot.
They got Nola Trammell was the main piece there. There was I think there were 7 players total in that. But that's why people were shocked, because Taylor Trammell was is a top 100 prospect. And again, that starts going into your rankings, because we heard people started like trashing Trammell, and it's like, well, there's something there.
Yeah,
I think he had a tough year last year, but if you're Seattle, and something that we always run into, whether we're doing our Yankee stuff or whatever it is value. And Austin Nola, I believe, was a spring training invitee a couple years ago. Austin Nola comes up last year. He starts playing well. I think the stat that kept going around was since he got called up, he's 3rd in catcher WAR or something like that. So the Padres say, hey, let's take a chance on this guy. If he's right, he's 30 years old. Doesn't have a ton of wear and tear on the body like a lot of 30-year-olds might. Maybe he figured it out, and we've got a cheap, controllable catcher for the rest of his career potentially. And they flipped Trammell, who that was the piece they kind of got back for Franmil Reyes, who had all this potential and was part of the Bauer trade. So as a Padres fan, you're sitting there and you're talking yourself into this guy. Like, he's going to be a part of our future. He's a part of this young Padres up-and-coming team. And to flip him for a 30-year-old catcher who looked like his major league career might never happen, that's a weird feeling. But that also raises the old Jomboy red flag of, if Taylor Trammell was really beloved, would he have been traded twice, and would one of those times been for a 30-year-old catcher who's only played, 100 games? What's the over-under on that?
Yeah, I mean, not Trammell's stock has dropped considerably within baseball markets to have been moved in this trade. If you trade a guy twice, if the guy gets traded twice, it just doesn't pass the sniff test. So I don't know what's going on. And I said this, it's not damning for Trammell, but right now, something's not adding up from the rankings, the market, whatever. The front offices don't agree with the rankings on him.
Yeah. They went out and did a bunch of other stuff. I mean, not only they got Nola, they got Jason Castro. So they're shoring up their catching. And
they got Rosenthal, too.
Yeah,
Trevor Rosenthal. And I think this might have the biggest impact of them all. I mean, Clevenger clearly is going to impact that franchise, but Mitch Moreland coming over
is
a huge piece for a team.
Been raking this year.
He just kind of rakes, dude. Mississippi boy, just rake, and that's what he does. He doesn't know anything else other than hunting and hitting. Okay, I know Mitch.
Oh, that's a good shirt. That's kind of not our brand, but hunting and hitting. That's good.
That's what he does.
Dozier. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe drink some freaking beer too. But, that guy who has World Series experience.
That's what I was going to say. Him and Hosmer, you're like they're peppering in some veterans here.
That is an
postseason experience.
Those two guys leading the way into the postseason is going to pay huge dividends for the Padres. They have like Machado, Hosmer, and now Moreland as their vets. All with postseason experience, and they need that. They have some young guys. Obviously, Tatis has never played in the playoffs, and Paddock's never played in the playoffs. So, that's a understated, but I think a very valuable trade that they made. And I'm surprised that Mitch Moreland was one of those guys we knew was probably going to get moved, and I think he fits perfectly in San Diego. He would have fit perfectly in a couple different places, but specifically in San Diego, he fits great.
And I've been calling for that kind of lefty bat for a while. I mean, Jake Cronenworth has been great this year. We'll see if there's any pumpkin there. He looks like a stud. But, I mean, I don't know. I just think there is something to the traditional. I mean, Tatis, Machado, if Tommy Pham comes back. But Trent Grisham's also been great for them. I mean, their lineup, 1 through 9, if they get healthy now, is stacked. And then it's, again, on our Talkin' Yanks stuff, we've been trying to, because the Yankees are hurt and they went through a nasty streak, it's what does anything mean towards the playoff? There's going to be a 3-game series, and you better bring it. And, I mean, with their lineup 1 through 9, you're going Clevenger, probably Paddock. His numbers aren't great this year, especially when you see Zach Davies and Dinelson Lamet with ERAs in the 2. I kind of like Dinelson maybe going to the bullpen for a 3-game set because he has such wipeout stuff. And the fact that you can have that conversation, that's where things start getting really exciting as a Padres fan. So, man, that's they got Tim Hill before this, and I don't know. I'm starting to zig and zag Jakey style a little bit too much, but it's kind of what we were talking about, and I think we'll talk about the money factor of this trade deadline a little more when we get to the Yankees. But when this Padres front office came together, I think they told the ownership group when we sign Hosmer and we do all of this, 2020 is going to be our year. And now they're the story of baseball. Slam Diego, Tatis. I think the GM can then go to the owner and say, hey, let me go all in. Let's do it. Let's go get Clevenger. There was Syndergaard rumors with San Diego for the past couple years. They get their guy. Could Clevenger be like a better fit with this team?
Yes.
They're they're fun. He likes to have fun. I don't know, man. What I said before the year, I said this Padres team has supposed to have been coming for years. So it has to be their year this year or the next. They had a great farm system, which is largely untouched. So you have to give some props to that, whatever that means. Those guys are going to come up and help, hopefully. But I think it's the arrival of Tatis, which is, I mean, look, he was good last year, but you just never know what's going to come year 2. And he's obviously been one of, if not the best player in baseball this year. And that helps a lot. That helps a lot as a GM when you're like, I got this guy making $500,000 and life is good. I'm going to try to shove some crap. I think I froze. Oh, here we go.
Hey, you're good. Final shout out, and we should probably move from the Padres, is, hey, they got Cronenworth and Pham from the Rays this year. Cronenworth was supposed to be a throw-in. He's second on the team in WAR. They got Trent Grisham in the trade with the Brewers for Rias. Trent Grisham's fourth in the team in WAR. Zach Davies, who was a part of that team, he's been shoving this year. So a little shout-out before the deadline, and that's what put them in position to do this. So.
Yeah, not one member of their lineup is a kid they signed, or a kid they signed as a international free agent or drafted. It's all free agent signings and trades.
Yeah, I mean, think about Tatis. Think about how he got there.
Yeah.
Big game James. The White Sox gave Fernando Tatis. Imagine if Fernando Tatis was on the freaking White Sox right now.
He fits on both teams perfectly. All right. we got to move forward with this. The last thing that I'll say is Indians fans, the only thing I kept seeing them saying is, well, they needed an impact outfielder. Josh Naylor's not an impact outfielder.
No.
So that's weird that I see Indians fans saying that.
Prove them wrong, Josh. Prove them wrong, baby.
Please do. Please do. I root for everyone to be good, besides when you're playing the Yankees. All right, before we get on to the Blue Jays and the Reds and the Cubs and all these other teams that made moves, let me tell you about DraftKings. With football right around the corner, there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings Sportsbooks. America's top-rated sportsbook app. To celebrate the return of football, DraftKings is giving all users a no-brainer to start the season. Listen up, because you don't want to miss this. Have you ever heard of a football team losing by 100 points? No. Well, for a week, I did that in the Dr. Dre voice.
Good.
Have you ever played putt-putt with the man and watch his butt? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. For week one, DraftKings is ensuring that even if Kansas City were to lose in historic fashion, you would still cash in your bet. That's right. DraftKings Sportsbook has moved the spread to Kansas City plus 101 points for all users. So even if Kansas City loses by 100 points, you will still win big with DraftKings Sportsbook. That's a no-brainer. On top of that amazing offer, DraftKings is giving away up to $100 million in prizes to all users who enter their free football survivor pool. All you have to do is sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook, enter their survivor pool, and you'll instantly get a share of up to $100 million in giveaways. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code JOMBOY to take advantage of this no-brainer of an offer. That's promo code JOMBOY to get in on all the action for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, New Jersey only. Other terms and conditions and restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. The Blue Jays were the other team that I think shocked a lot of people with a lot of moves. And this goes back a ways as well. I mean, they did a lot in the offseason. They got Ryu. They brought in a bunch of pitchers in the offseason. And I guess that was a good preamble. Like, we should have maybe said, oh, yeah, why wouldn't they continue doing that? So they bring in a lot of guys. They already brought in Vogelback. Not that he really adds to this.
Yeah.
They already brought in Taijuan Walker. We knew about that. They bring in Robbie Ray and Ross Stripling. I mean, that's kind of crazy. It's a lot.
3 starting pitchers.
3 starting pitchers, and they traded for Matt Shoemaker. They had, who else did they bring in? Chase Anderson, Roark, Shoemaker, Ryu was the offseason. Now they're bringing in Robbie Ray, Taijuan Walker, Ross Stripling, Nate Pearson, and Trent Thornton left, right? And Shoemaker, they all been out with injuries, so that's why they need to do this.
Thornton's out for the year. Shoemaker's hurt, yeah.
So they make a ton of splashes. Anyone else did I miss anything else?
They got VR. VR,
yeah.
so he's going to fill in at short for Bichette until he comes back. And then, he is a versatile guy, so if they need him elsewhere or if they want him to run or do whatever they want to do. But, yeah, the Blue Jays made serious moves, man. I mean, 3 starting pitchers.
Yeah, and they were doing okay. Like, their pitching hasn't been great, but it hasn't been bad either. But I think they saw an opportunity to, stock up and kind of lengthen the rotation out a little bit, and they did it. They're maybe, in their minds, similar to where the Padres are at. They say, we got our core here, and we believe in them, so let's supplement them with some cheaper talent this year. And, dude, if Nate Pearson comes up and proves to be, he comes back in September and proves to be who they think he is, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see them this offseason go after another starting pitcher, maybe a guy that they see as more of like an impact type guy. But these baby Jays, man, they're here to stay. They've opened my eyes up for sure. This lineup has been pretty good, even with Vlad Guerrero Jr. not being as dominant as people may thought he would be this year. But I think that they're a team that's built to contend for quite some time. They just need to plug in a few pieces here and there. I think this is a great year for them to go get experience in the playoffs. I don't really necessarily believe in this team this year. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think getting that experience and playing that postseason ball will really push them forward, especially 2021. I think the Blue Jays will be more like where the Padres are at, really pushing all their chips in.
Well, all right. I haven't looked into this enough. Jake, how many, if you don't know, sorry,
Sure.
how many of these guys that they got are rentals? How many do they have?
Taiwan's a rental.
Yeah.
VR, I believe,
Is
is
a rental.
rental.
Yeah, I think he signed a 1-year deal with the Marlins.
Who else did we get?
Stripling.
Stripling's
He's got
2 more years.
2 more years on
Stripling's
Stripling,
so
so
he'll
that's
be
nice.
there next year. And man, Stripling's had some pretty good numbers. I mean, maybe it's the company he keeps in LA, but not a lot of people talk about Ross Stripling. A career 3.68 ERA.
Robbie Ray's a rental.
Ray's a rental.
And Robbie's been pretty bad. I mean, Jake, do you want to talk about Robbie Ray trade?
It's a flyer, man. I was laughing yesterday just because Robbie Ray rumors have been flying for 3 years now, and he's had some huge seasons. I mean, Robbie Ray, if you like WAR and that kind of stuff, he's had some huge years as a pitcher. And the part that was getting me is, I mean,
He's only had 1 year. He's had 1 year.
I think that second year, too, rated out pretty well, just war-wise and stuff. I know it's not special, but they've been offered dudes for Robbie Ray. I'm waiting for the book to come out about the Diamondbacks GM, whatever it says. But with his strikeout numbers, a young lefty, like they've been offered dudes for Robbie Ray, and here they are in his contract year in this COVID season. Your season falls apart. And I mean, I don't think they got a dude back. They got Travis Bergen, who I'm not well versed in, but looks like he's been a reliever for a couple years with a 5.06 ERA. Robbie Ray's been walking a guy for an inning. I mean, he may not get
giving up a hit. He's been giving up a hit and a walk every inning.
He may not get it figured out this year.
Yes.
But hey, you still love taking a flyer because if he
Put him in the
does,
bullpen.
do something. Just punch people out, you know?
I don't get this guy. I'm looking at his numbers now. Like I've had an idea of what kind of pitcher he was. I knew his strikeouts are always there. You know, he's in his career averaged 11 per 9. But he's had one good year. You know, he struck out 200 guys in 2016, but he had a 4.9. Then 2017, he puts it all together, has a 2.89, strikes out 218 people, All-Star, 7th in the Cy Young, and then that's it, man.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, you can cook numbers different ways. This is the guy that you're pitching.
I don't think you can.
This is the guy you're pitching. This is the guy you're pitching.
Anyway.
This is the guy your pitching coach salivates over, though. Trev, he's got 3 200K seasons. I mean, that's like you have to have some stuff to do that. I don't know about your pitching. I don't know about your control. I think the Diamondback joke is normally, you know, he's going to walk a couple guys an inning and scare the hell out of you, and half the games he gets out of it, half of the games he doesn't. But, I mean, this is the guy you want to get your hands on because you know in 2017 he put together that, 12.1 K per 9 that led the league. 2.89
All he
ERA.
can do is strike guys out, put them in the freaking pen.
Yeah, I
dude.
actually love that idea by Trev. Put him in the pen for the rest of this year and then see what you got next year if he's just going to come strike guys out.
Well, he's done.
Rental.
This is a rental. So put him in the pen. Who gives a shit?
I thought I just checked it. No? True rental? Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's an interesting move.
Yeah, it's funny. Like his stuff and the ranks out pretty well. High fastball spin, high K percentage, high whiff percentage, decent fastball velocity. All of the bat to ball peripherals are horrible. Like exit velocity, 5%. Hard hit rate, 5%. Expected slugging, like they're all horrible. And not just this year, like throughout the year. So they didn't give up anything for him, really. No. So it's a fine move by the Blue Jays. I'm just interested to see. I think Stripling's a better grab. And you got
throw
the
it
years.
at the wall. You got the baby Jays, like Trev was saying, and this is, hey, again, what was the conversation between the GM and ownership the past couple years? The baby Jays are up. We're doing it. They're probably looking at San Diego like, hey, we're just like that. You're a little different.
They're right behind them.
Yeah. But the Ryu points, I mean, huge. Good. This team was in. We looked at the Yankees and Rays and said those are, two of baseball's top teams. The Jays are probably getting it together for the season, and A, they're pretty close to the Yanks, but B, with the expanded playoffs, do it. Do it. You get in a 3-game set, see what happens, and put yourself in the fun conversation I just had about the Padres. You know, what if you can put these, you know, you go Ryu, maybe Taijuan Walker still looks good, Stripling, maybe he's solid. If Pearson comes back and you're scared just because he already got hurt this year and he's your big prospect, do you push him in the bullpen and then he becomes your super weapon?
What is their rotation? Like Ryu? Because Stripling, I think he plays better out of the pen in his career as well.
I mean, I think Jays fans would be mad that I suggested Pearson to the pen. If he comes back healthy, they want him. But his numbers haven't been great, and he's got a special arm. Like, Chase Anderson's having a good year, so I don't know. It's not the names that necessarily excite you. You know what? Go fix Robbie Ray. I'm in on it.
What's cool about the Jays is, you know, Fernando Tatis has just come out and taken over this league. Everyone's talking about him and the Padres, and I just said they probably saw Tatis do it again this year. Like, okay, like it's time to push it. But Bo Bichette is on the same level as Fernando Tatis. He's 1 year older than Tatis. They both debuted last year, and they both are absolute studs. I mean, if you just want to go by, you know, OPS in his career, Fernando Tatis is 995. It's amazing. OPS plus 163. Then you look at Bo Bichette, who's hurt right now, but coming back. His OPS is 961. His OPS plus is 152. Like, this guy's the real freaking deal. We have a guy like that you can build around, plus the other studs they have, Kevin Biggio, Gurriel Jr., freaking Vlad Jr., Pearson. I mean, they have the talent. This is the little plug and play this year, and then I think we're going to see them start to really go.
I was excited for the Blue Jays. Yeah, well, I'm happy for the Blue Jays that they went all in. I don't see a difference maker.
Not this year.
Yeah. I was looking at the stats and, like, Ray's been bad, Stripling's been bad.
Their different makers have to be in-house. Like, Vlad Jr. just had an 888 OPS month.
These guys got to plug some holes so the flowers can grow.
Ooh.
Dude, think about the payroll. They have all these young guys making absolutely no money right now.
Yeah.
They have payroll flexibility, and they can go. There's some starters out there that aren't, you know, there's not a ton of high-end starters out there this offseason. I mean, Bauer's out there, but is he going to want to go play in Toronto?
It's got a 1 year deal for $4,020,069.
42 million. Yeah.
Hilarious.
I just think they're going to be aggressive in the years to come because they do have that payroll flexibility. And now I'm a huge Blue Jays fan that I'm really diving in here. They're set up, man. They're set up to compete for quite some time.
All right. Trev's on the Blue Jays. Jake, the Reds. The most frustrating team this season. They made 2 moves.
Yeah.
One was a reliever, which they desperately needed. If you listen to this show and hear us talk about the Reds or the pregame show, every episode is basically like, yeah, Sonny will pitch great and the bullpen will blow it. Yeah, Bauer will pitch good and the bullpen will blow it. So they bring in Archie Bradley. And then they also brought in Brian Goodwin. He's not really a solution because he's not really playing that well either, but they don't have anything happening in their outfield. They have Castellanos, and Winker's been DHing.
Yeah, I mean, those two guys are hitting. Neither of them are great at defense. But so one DHs, one plays the outfield. But, yeah, I mean, Shogo hasn't done anything yet. Right now they've got Aquino trying to find that magic, so maybe you platoon Aquino and Goodwin. There's a little lefty-righty platoon and see if you could get either of them.
He might replace Shogo in center field.
Could do that too. Archie Bradley's the move for them. And this is, you know, Jake's bullpen theory. Like, if you're the Reds and you're this team, I think you need to pretend this is the instant solution. You need to pretend this is what they're missing. So that first game, when you go Gray to Bradley to Iglesias, you say, yup.
There it is.
We're fixed. And then you just have that mentality. That's how we're going to win games. That's how we're going to do it. And if they start seeing, they got to start winning. They got to win games. They got to win series.
They didn't fix their offense.
They didn't fix their offense.
The bullpen was a major problem, and that's a nice little, help. It's a big, big help in the back end of winning games. Offense has to give them leads.
See, I don't believe that they're worried about their offense. Obviously, they haven't performed, but they went out and spent money. They believe in this offense. They went out and put this offense together. So they're hoping for a turnaround. And I think that they believe that with the bullpen additions, they're going to get into the playoffs. And then once you're in the playoffs, like you guys had mentioned, I mean, that's a rotation and a team, honestly, that you just don't want to face. Like, they get hot and they go. So a lot of these teams are just really saying, okay, like, we can sneak into these playoffs, and then how do we match up in a series? These guys match up well with anybody, especially in a 3-game set. So I believe, they have to get the offense going, but Moose hasn't been great. Castellanos has been pretty good.
Suarez has been bad.
Suarez really needs to pick it up. Vado's kind of been average. I need to look up his stats right now, but
I think it's new Joey Votto. He's got a 342 on base, but a 753 OPS.
Yeah, and then Shogo hasn't done anything, so
Senzel's hurt.
They gotta go, but I do believe they believe in the offense, and like I said, man, those top 3 guys, they kept all their starters, and here we go.
And they have Bradley for another year too. He comes with next year as well, and it's pretty damn cheap. I think they paid $500,000 for him.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
And if the back end of their bullpen is right, in the playoffs, man, so you only use 3 or 4 guys in your pen. You just wear the hell out of them.
I mean, this trade they gave up utility man Josh Van Meter and an outfield prospect Stuart Fairchild, who I don't think is anything really. Is that?
Oh no, it's a prospect,
but it's not
hyped.
not a hyped prospect. And then they're paying Archie Bradley $500,000. So this trade, as a Yankee fan, to me is like, we couldn't have matched that. $500,000 salary and 2 prospects. Like, we have utility men. I love Tyler Wade, but you want a utility guy, plays every position in the outfield really well and the infield really well. We have prospects that probably square up with Stuart Fairchild, and we have $500,000.
And I think that's where the what does your team value? Who does your scouts like? If they don't like anyone on the Yanks, you're dead in the water. And I think the other thing there, which again kind of lit up my eyes this morning, normal year, the Reds aren't making trades for players. They're 15-20. They're 15-20. So normally,
and 2.7 times that. I mean, that's where you'd put them at.
Normally,
that's not good.
They wouldn't even be in the mix at the deadline, and instead this year they were quite active. So they need to see the formula happen, and then I think it could start happening. I think Lorenzen settled down a little bit. Maybe he gets a little push from the less high leverage innings. And this team, every NL team, does not want to play in that 3-game set because Sonny, Trevor, and Castillo.
Yeah, Castillo hasn't been great, but Sonny.
Yeah.
He's coming back. Castillo has a 4.1 ERA, which ain't great. He's got a 3.03 FIP, 52 strikeouts in 37 innings. And hey, Tyler Mahle having a really nice year. That's another arm you kick to the pen in that 3-game set. And then what do you do?
Yeah, Archie Bradley, Amir Garrett, this guy TJ Antone. I saw his post-game presser. He's talking about the Cubs. They had a little bit of shit-talking
Lucas Sims
series, but he's been pretty good. Yeah, I mean, look, we talk about the Reds all the time. They're very intriguing to anybody that follows baseball.
They're either the most disappointing.
But they've been shitty.
They're like the most disappointing 9 seed ever, or they're going to be a horrifying 5 through 8 seed.
Yeah.
The Dodgers. You win 45 games in a 60-game season. Here's the Reds. Go ahead.
Keep joking about it. Can you imagine?
It's going to be must watch.
Like Kershaw versus Bauer or something like that.
Walker Buehler versus Sonny Gray.
It's a really good series. Castillo's been not great. He's had according to Jimmy metrics, 3 good starts and 4 bad starts this season. And those 3 good ones come from Detroit, Kansas City, and the Brewers. There you go.
And the Brewers.
So you got to figure it out.
I might have our next team, Jim.
All right, I was gonna jump to one, but do you want it?
Well, I wanted to talk about the Marlins, but I think we could come back to them because they might have got the second best player at the deadline. But I think it's Oakland.
Oh, okay. They only got one guy.
Well, they got Tommy La Stella a couple days before, so I'm gonna lump that in. And man, I've raved about that infield without Tommy La Stella. If Tommy La Stella can be the Tommy La Stella that he was at the Angels, I mean Olsen, La Stella, Chapman, Simeon can go toe-to-toe with any infield in baseball. And Mike Minor. I think the numbers around what Mike Minor's doing are down. I think the fastball's down about 1.5 miles, which ain't great, especially when you're kind of a fastball changeup guy. But man, when Mike Minor's right, I mean, look what he did last year. He was nasty. And they kind of go overlooked. And again, they're the only big-time contender that made moves. Rays, Yanks, Dodgers, Braves.
Cubs made some moves.
Cubs, I guess if we're lumping in there, they did make some moves, but they made the biggest moves by one of the top teams this year.
Minor.
And a couple, and all they had to give away was 2 players to be named later for a guy who's has a track record.
He's a true rental, too.
It's such an A's trade.
Yeah.
It's such an A's trade. Dave Forst and Billy Beane are just there like, okay, this is exactly how we do business. Let's go get a guy.
What is Minor? Ground ball guy?
He's the inside changeups. He's really fun and bizarre to watch, but when it's right, it's beautiful.
And he struck out 200 guys last year. We all know the famous pop-up heard around the world. So he's another guy, a veteran, can go in there and stabilize the rotation. And if you get if you're counting on some regression, he's going to come back and he's not a 5.9 ERA guy. So you're expecting him to level out a little bit there and provide you with some good starts. I mean, it's 5 or 6 starts.
He had the highest WAR of Major League AL pitchers last year, which, I mean, do what you want with that because you look at other guys' stats and say they're better. But for whatever it's worth.
Oakland drops 5 earned runs on him on August 6th.
Tough. Hey, you don't have to face us anymore.
Yeah.
You get to face Texas.
Let me tell you why we hit you so well.
You get to face the Rangers. They stink.
It's funny.
Gosh, I want to talk about. We're doing trades right now, but you just reminded me of your ace talking last night.
Call? Oh, we'll save that.
Yeah.
Please save that.
What do you think about the Mets?
They're not. Quite frankly, they're not worth discussing.
Ooh. Jomboy.
Why'd they make trades?
Because the NL East is a mess.
But they're showing no promise.
Because Jacob deGrom's dude, I'm the best pitcher of my generation. Give me something.
Brody said he was going to take them to the playoffs.
Yeah, Rob Manfred was like, you have to apologize to me and also go out and trade for Todd Frazier and Robinson Chirinos.
You have to compete.
They bring in Miguel Castro, Todd Frazier. I'm happy for Todd. He gets to come back and be by his family. Come back and be on the East Coast and live from home and commute and see his kids again. So happy, very happy for Todd.
What he said, Brody said about Todd was, I think we need a spark. And if there is anybody that's going to come over and bring you a spark, it's the Todd father. So I get it. If that's what he wanted, he's going to get that.
I feel bad for Todd sometimes because I think that his clubhouse guy, people get sick of hearing that and think he's this big, let's go guy. But he's very, but in a different, it's not in an annoying way. It's not like Nick Swisher on the Yankees where you're like, dude, chill.
Swisher's his own thing.
Chill out, man.
No, Todd's a little bit more inherently cool. But it is that, dude, I mean, he's a New Jersey guy. We're doing fist pumps. We're doing all that.
He'll talk to you.
Music.
Sit next to each other at the bar, yuck it up a little bit, have a nice pastram.
Anyway, I mean, I'm happy for Todd and the Mets that he comes back. Maybe they do need some life, but I just don't see, and I know that it's a mess, but I don't, whatever.
It's a mess.
I was shocked.
They're still involved, and I think the other thing that we're going back to in some of these trades that leave us frustrated as Yankee fans, what they give up.
Well, the Miguel Castro one.
I mean, Miguel Castro is a guy with Crazy talent, all arms and legs.
I faced him. He's his stuff's not great, but he is deceptive.
It's a tough at bat. Like you're just not comfortable.
What are his numbers? I haven't looked him up. Has he been good?
I think he's having a good year this
16
year.
appearances, 12 without an earned run. 2 games he gave up multiple runs, which blow up his ERA. ERA for a reliever I never look at.
Yeah.
How many outings did you do your job? 12 out of 16. And if he got the hold, he allowed a run, but he didn't give up the lead or anything.
His K per 9 has almost doubled this year.
Got to be good, yeah.
14 out of 16 times he's walked off the mound thinking, I did my job.
He's, throws pretty hard. He's just sticks, dude. He's the skinniest person you've ever seen on the mound.
Yeah.
Throws hard, has a good slider. I could see how he can come in and I mean, if you need a strikeout, he's kind of your guy right now. So
they traded him for a 23-year-old pitcher. That was their draft pick, their 7th-round draft pick in 2018.
It's just surprising to me that the Mets are making moves. I don't know.
I was surprised as well. And like
Brody said it though. He said we're not selling, we're going.
I mean, that's how Brody got the job. Every other GM walked in there and said, "Well, I think we should, rebuild it a little bit." And Brody went in and said, "Mets, playoffs. Let's go."
Can you imagine if they had Syndergaard there?
Stroman too.
And Stroman, like this,
they have Castro for 2 more years.
It's a talented arm.
I know.
You go flip him in the offs. If he comes
I don't dislike the trades for the Mets.
Hey, no,
I like Todd as a clubhouse guy bringing him in. I like Castro as a bullpen arm for the next 2 years. Interesting to me that they're bringing in guys.
Everything we said about the Reds, I know it's easy to get excited about that pitching staff. The Mets and the Reds have the same record. So do with that what you want.
Yeah, that's true.
And both divisions are a mess. So,
and they have a club option on Todd for next year if they want to bring him back.
All right.
Interesting.
Sure.
Let's go to the Cubs. Cubs are in first place, and they're one of the first place teams that actually reinforce their team. Not big moves at all.
Deadline moves.
But deadline moves like, hey, what do we need help with? They brought in Jose Martinez, which is actually a good move.
Yeah, like him.
He's a professional hitter. He can mash lefty hitters, so I like that move by them.
And that helped them last year. They did the same thing with Castellanos. I think Castellanos a little better all around, but mashes lefties. Cameron
Maybin they bring in. He is the Todd Frazier effect. Like when they brought the Cameron Maybin in last year, CC Sabathia and the other players were like, it's amazing how much he changed the vibe in our clubhouse. He was just a glue guy right away. Cameron Maybin's been average. He's a rental, and basically what the Cubs need is just depth because Bryant's nursing an injury, Souza's out, so they're just trying to get bench players and fill out their bench, what first-place teams usually do at the deadline. So they brought in Cameron Maybin. They also fill out their relief pitchers with 2 lefties out of the pen, Osich and Chafin. So they're not huge moves, but the Cubs are a good team in first place. But this is like a classic deadline, in my opinion. Yeah. We just got some bench pieces. We got some more relievers to help out. We didn't get that big, Dodgers trading for Manny. That's like the huge thing. This is like your every year first place team reinforcing. So I like it.
We talked about like the speed defense guys are going to move. So Dyson, where did Dyson go? The White Sox?
White Sox, yep.
Cameron Maybin can steal you a base. He can play center field for you if you need him to. I don't think the Cubs have a true center fielder, do they? They kind of have guys going in and out of there.
Hap.
Yeah, and he's plays infield sometimes. He's so, you have a guy out there that could play center field for you. Well, the Chafin move is funny. Like I'm reading about it now. And he's a lefty specialist. And guess who's in their division? Guys like Christian Yelich and Joey Votto and, Jess Winker and all these guys. So, like you said, Jim, these are moves, strategic moves to help them, in certain situations where they felt they were vulnerable. So not big splashy moves, but definitely moves that make their team better.
And Happ has been playing center field basically every day.
And he's been doing good. He's been crushing the ball.
He's been killing it. Yeah.
I don't know about I'm going to look up defensive stuff, but I feel like, like we said, stolen bases, stuff like that, he's your guy.
Yep.
And yeah, the bench thing is interesting because Chris Bryant's hurt right now, but otherwise
I think he's back today.
Two of their bench dudes
Sousa's coming back too.
Are hurt at Descalso and Sousa. So you just give yourself options. You can mix in some rest day. You can do some lefty-righty stuff, which is, baseball has been heading this way. And, God, after playing the Rays, watch the way they can lefty-righty you, especially with the 3-batter rule come the playoff. You mentioned Chafin as a lefty specialist. Teams are now trying to trap those guys. If you don't do your job on the lefty batter, guess what? You might get a righty off the bench or whoever it might be. But, yeah, reinforcements. And Jose Martinez, man, what he can do against lefties, I think the Rays are going to regret trading him. If there is a weakness on the Rays, I'd say it's kind of their lineup versus lefties, and Jose Martinez can be impactful. I think career he's got an OPS in the 9 versus lefties, so good for the Cubs. And, yeah, you've just got options out of the bullpen because guess what? I bet a couple of the guys don't work. I bet a couple of the guys do work. I don't know if it's Osich. I don't know if it's Chafin.
If none of these moves really, 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 really help, it doesn't still really matter for how the Cubs, but they can help.
Yeah.
They can't really hurt, and they didn't really give up anything. Zach Short was a prospect I think they gave up, but
just left himself a lot of options. Jose Martinez, career versus lefties.
That's a good move. That's
319 batting average, 392 on base, and 946 OPS. So against left-handed pitching, Jose Martinez is an all-star caliber player. So you use that, and yeah, you just got so many options now. Second base, do you want to use Kipnis or Horner, your top prospect? Cameron Maben, I guarantee you, whenever he's in the game, he's going to be show. Whether it's base running, defense, or an at-bat, it's going to be show level. So a really solid deadline by the Cubbies.
Yep. And we were talking about the Mets. We forgot that they brought in Robinson Chirinos as the new backup catcher. He's can't hit at all, but they just need a backup catcher.
They need a guy. Split time with Ramos. One of you figure it out.
What's Ramos' stats on the year? Because Chirinos are bad. Wilson Ramos makes Chirinos look like a pro. Wilson Ramos has
Buffalo, man.
Chirinos has a OPS of 367 and an OPS plus of 5.
Not good.
Means he's 95% worse than the average hitter.
Tough year.
If there's one guy in the major leagues who you don't want to meet in a dark alley late at night, it's Wilson Ramos. So
he's
take
huge,
that for what it's worth.
Man. He's
valuable to the team just because he could beat everybody up.
Okay.
He's scary.
Ramos and Chirinos almost the same career OPS lifetime. Eerily similar.
What's Ramos's OPS lifetime? Curious.
He is 755 and Chirinos is 758.
That's way more than I give Chirinos credit for. Wow.
He had
That's some good years in Texas then.
Couple good years with Texas and Houston.
Well, he was getting the buzzer. Everyone knows that.
The Marlins, they brought in people. Now we're just kind of doing a scrap heap at the end here. Marlins acquired Starlin Marte for Caleb Smith and Humberto Mejia. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Did the Marlins acquire anyone else?
They traded away VR, but attached to that, Isan Diaz is coming back. He opted out from this season, and he was a big prospect for them, so he's coming back, so he can kind of plug into VR's role. So although you trade him and he's a solid player, you have the replacement ready to go. And, Starling Marte, he's going to be at the top of their lineup. I don't know if he's going to hit third, second, whatever they want to do with him. He's going to be the best hitter on that team. And
we're talking paid this offseason. What's going to happen?
Well, Trev, that's the other wild part about the Marte trade. He has a 1-year option for $12.5 million, which for Starling Marte is pretty good value.
Oh, and they already picked it up. I actually saw that. Yeah,
they already picked it up. Was that part of the trade?
Yeah. So I was reading about that, and they were saying they think that he could be there long term as well, because that's if you're in Miami, he will feel comfortable there. It's the closest. I think he's Dominican. It's close to the Dominican. He just lost his wife, and he has a couple kids. So I think this is a good spot for him to land, so he could be close to family. And I think it's typically Miami has been a place where like the Latin ball players feel really comfortable. So for them to pick up the option, that's great for them. I think that's a steal for the Marlins. So good job, Jeets, right there.
Yeah, Jeets.
Who did they get back? Caleb Smith, Humberto, I just said it.
Yeah.
Is that a return? I mean, they just signed Marte. They had the Marte they traded for him. Marte brothers. I'm interested to see. I don't know. We have to do it now, but because they just traded for him, right?
Yeah, this
so you can
offseason.
quite frankly look at who they traded to get Marte and who they got in return, because it's kind of like flipping a house in a way where Marte had a really good season, so they sold on him pretty high. Is Caleb Smith and Mejia and them better than what they gave up for Marte? I don't know if we can do that this quickly.
Yeah,
but interesting thought. Yeah,
Caleb Smith's an arm. See what Mejia is. I'm happy for the Marlins. They're 500. And Trev, we were talking right before we went live on this, and it's the Marlins. It's the Marlins. You look up and down, you're not too impressed. But they can pitch.
They can pitch.
And in this NL slog, if they can stay 500, they're going to be the 7 or the 6 seed. And they're going to be in every game because they've got a lot of young arms. So I really like it for them, man.
All right.
I mean, all their top 10 prospects, according to my best friend Keith Law, are starting to come. Sixto Sanchez, that's a tough one. Sixto Sanchez, Sandy Alcantara, Alicia Hernandez, Pablo Lopez. Then they have this guy named Trevor Rogers. He's ranked number 8. He's in their bullpen. And then there's 2 other pitchers in their top 10 who are on their way. Plus, they drafted number 3 overall, the pitcher out of Minnesota. Like, they have pitching help coming. So,
did you see Sixto, Trev? He's stupid.
He's something.
The Rockies picked up Pilar.
Jake, you've been saying this forever.
Oh my God!
That they need defensive help.
This was.
They should have packaged JBJ in the trade too.
My spidey sense was up on JBJ. The value was not going to add up for what he means to that city. Good for Pilar. Yeah, there's a comical Yankees-Rockies series. Was it last year? Where their outfield defense was atrocious. So you bring in Pilar, maybe the bat finds a little life in Coors, but, a deadline piece. You're going to get an MLB at bat. He's going to play good defense for you. And they got Michael Givens from the Orioles a couple days ago. So the Rockies, push those chips in. Givens and Pilar.
Yeah, okay, so that's like all the moves that were made, and we're running long. I don't know if we missed anyone. We kind of covered everything, which is a little...
Phillies got David Phelps, who's actually having a really nice year. Hopefully that can help their bullpen.
Full of moxie.
So much. Dude, look at his stats this year,
I know,
too.
they're good.
And everything's up, so maybe they found something there.
I have a little bit of insight on the Plains situation.
Trevor?
Were we talking about this on the episode?
I don't know if we did this
beforehand?
live. We were wondering if these guys that are getting traded are flying commercial, because they're not allowed to even go to grocery stores and stuff like that. They're not allowed to take Ubers, so it'd be shocking if they fly commercial.
Yeah, so we said, I talked to Morneau. He said he thinks they are. At least that's what Boris said. But I don't think that's the case. And then I texted another guy, and he said, I heard the Padres did it, but not sure about the other teams. The Phillies did not do that for Phelps. So, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you go on a plane. I guess he's got to get tested, but they didn't have to quarantine Tommy Malone at all. Tommy Malone flew and pitched an hour after getting off the damn plane.
Someone said in the Patreon chat that Boris is flying his players on a jet. That's nice.
Team should just, little jet SweetX. Let's go.
Yeah, like we talked, I was talking to some people that know some players saying like, yeah, they are all living close together so they can carpool to the game because they're not allowed to take taxis, Ubers, or the subway. So
it's interesting.
How are you going to fly commercial? That makes no sense. Whatever.
I think that's pretty much it, guys.
Yeah, the teams that didn't make moves,
right?
The Braves, the Yankees, Jake and I, Dodgers,
Rays.
But Dodgers didn't need to. If the Dodgers made any moves, it'd be small, like Cub-like moves.
But they already have Gore there, so they don't need us.
I mean,
fast dude.
Dodgers were supposedly on Lance Lynn till the end.
Yeah, I wonder what happened there with Lance Lynn not being moved and they were getting so many offers.
I didn't know he had another year of team control, so that makes a little bit of sense for the Rangers. Maybe they're going to do what you've said, Jim. Keep him into the offseason.
That's what I said about Bundy and Lance Lynn. Like, if you still believe you're trying to compete next year, you hang on to those guys.
Bundy.
If you sell Bundy at his highest value
neither of those
ever,
teams are going to fucking compete next year.
but they believe they will. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you sell Lance, that's what I said a couple days ago. If they sell Lance Lynn and Bundy, they're admitting they're not trying to compete next year because they have the next year of team control. And I don't think they want to admit that to their fan base and their audience because both those teams are trying to convince their fans of the opposite.
I've said this multiple times on our shows. The Rangers are the worst run franchise in the league right now. They have zero direction. They don't know what they're doing. So that doesn't surprise me that they don't know what they're going to do with Lynn either. And they just wait, and they're just going to wait now.
A team on the opposite end of that same spectrum, the Giants stand pat, but I think it's kind of a fun one. Like, hey, NL slog. If Gossman and Cueto are going to twirl it for you, let's go. Gabe Kapler at the helm.
Gabe Kapler getting the most out of his individuals.
Manager of the year? I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to hear Jake and I frustrated about the Yankees, I'm sure you can go listen to that. Maybe the Braves fans feel the same way. A lot of these relievers went for nothing, and the Yankees desperately needed another top arm in the back of their rotation. So, confusing.
Twins did nothing.
Twins? Yeah.
Yeah, it's another team.
Surprising.
This is what's going on with... Man, we saw this happen last year, and now with the expanded playoffs, we're really seeing it where the teams making the biggest moves are the teams that are not making the playoffs. The Reds last year, the Mets this year. The trade deadline has become, because they don't like giving guys big money in free agency, the trade deadline has become, well, even if we're not really competing this year, let's grab this guy because he's got years, controllable years afterwards. The CBA has flipped the thought process of the sport.
And I just think this year adds to it because everyone's still in it. If the Mets go, it's Jake's 5-1 rule. If any team in the NL goes 5-1 in a week, they're the 5 seed. So if you're the Mets, I know we have them Metsy as a Getsy in our heads, but they can't think that way. So they say Todd's gonna brighten it up. We're gonna have a good week and we're back in it. So I don't know. It's kind of fun. Is a little bummer as the Yankees. Trev, I was searching for answers myself, but do you think money tied in? We've done this conversation before, but the Yankees being their only company, it's not like they've got a hedge fund or an oil trust or something like that. They're the Yankees. Do you think Cashman maybe got a little bit of the you can't add money, or am I just making excuses for myself?
They're pretty cheap. All the salaries for rentals are really cheap.
And they just laid off 60 people. Someone pointed that out the other day. If you lay off 60 people and then you bring in someone that gets paid $5 million, I don't know.
I am sick of this shit, dude. The MLB made them go from 8 minor league teams to 4 minor league teams. The MLB proposal. What do you think the Yankees are going to do with all those employees that worked at the other 4 teams? They have to lay them off. Then the Yankees lay them off because MLB said we're shutting down 4 of your teams. And then all the headline writers in the media say, Yankees, what terrible people. They're laying off people. They were fucking forced to shut down 4 clubs. And every writer's just going to spin it like the big bad Yankees. They would have kept paying them. I'm sure they really wanted the 4 other teams to develop guys. As the most annoying thing is you told them they couldn't have 4 extra teams. All those 4 teams had coaches and instructors and scouts. So, of course, they're out jobs.
Go off, King.
I love it.
That was the most annoying.
So
that was the most annoying week of media. Yankees laid off 80 employees. You shut down 4 of their teams.
Yeah, and what
are they going to do? Just pay them to sit around an empty stadium?
We're also
Scout ghosts?
We're also getting to the point, like I said, where all these minor league facilities have TrackMan. So, the robot that comes and flips the burgers. I'm not saying a scout's job is done or useless because I don't really believe that. But yeah, when you implement technologies like that where they're able to track guys and they have all the data, they don't need as many guys. That is the reality of the situation. And you have to know that, like, they have computers doing some of the scouts' jobs now, so they're not going to be as plentiful.
Yeah, so I mean, to give an example of the money as well, because the first 2/3 of this season got paid out.
Right.
So like, look at Archie Bradley. He is owed $4.1 million this year, right? He was prorated 1.4 in this year's shortened season. So there's it was prorated to that, and then a third of it already got paid out at the front end when they were all sitting around waiting. So he's only owed the remainder of the season $617,000, and the Diamondbacks sent a $100K to the Reds, said we'll cover 100 of that. So the Reds paid $500,000. So that's
He's also
why
getting paid next year, though.
next
right?
year as well. But there's a lot of players that are rentals that got moved.
Right.
That the math is the same. You're paying for a third of the salary. That's like there was already only 1/3 left, and now you're cutting that. They're cheap. They're cheap.
Yeah, everybody's cheap. If you're making
Everybody's
league minimum
cheap
this
right
year,
now.
If you're making league minimum this year, I don't even think you're making any money anymore.
No,
think
you were
you're
making
done getting
like
paid.
you're making like $100,000, and then you prorate that for like just the last month. Like some of these guys are really, really cheap.
Jack Flaherty, Lucas Giolito, and Max Fried are going to be making like $30,000 total in the last like 5.
Yeah, I remember they did the number with Glaber too, and it was like under $100,000 for like the season. But they got paid up front, so it's a little tricky. But I'm saying for trades, a lot of these guys were cheaper than they'll ever be. So frustrating for Braves fans, Twins fans, Yankees fans, and anyone else that didn't go get people. I think we covered it.
It's the beginning of that money crunch that we're going to see next year.
Yeah. All right, that covers that. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Covered everything.
Good stuff.
Great job by us.
We kill it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for complimenting us. All right. We'll see you later. What are we doing next? Voicemails? Tidbits?
Lucas
next
Giolito
episode-
wants to come on.
Next episode will be out when it's out. See you then. Jake sucks.